Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and welcome to my introductory lecture for INFOST 547 User-Centered Interaction Design. We're getting pretty close to the end of week one of our schedule, and I was working on the schedule and syllabus and all those things, so last week I put up a copy of the old syllabus from a year ago, and I put up the assignments for week one, and on the schedule was also a copy of the lecture, the introductory lecture from a year ago. I didn't actually think I had done that. I only discovered that after the fact. So I think a lot of you probably played it, okay? And so here I've got I've come up with a new copy of the syllabus. I have put up the schedule in its entirety. The last piece of content to go up is probably this lecture, which is good. And I'm trying to make this a little more streamlined than, say, the lecture I did a year ago, such that if you listen to that, I'm not going to be repeating things. Okay, so I'm trying to talk about how things are different. So 1 year ago, I was teaching this course for the first time. It's a new course at UWM. And we were teaching it as a special topics course while we were waiting for approval of its regular course number. So whereas the previous year's materials all say INFOST 691, the permanent course number is what you see here, 547. And it's still called User-Centered Interaction Design. Last year, when I did my sort of introductory lecture, I talked a lot about this being the first time out, and we're going to feel our way through this, and we were going to feel our way through that. And it went very well. We had a good group of students. We got really good feedback from them, to the extent that we ran into difficulty here or there. Everybody had a good attitude, and we pulled it together. And I came to the end of the course with the following ideas about what I'd like to do for the current semester. One, I'd like to accelerate the content a little bit. I thought that the schedule was too back-weighted. So I have moved the readings, especially the readings in the textbook, up, and such that we've got more comfortable time in the end of the course to work on the practical stuff. The other thing is I thought that I probably would re-record the lectures. So you may, as you're going through the lectures, and there's one for each chapter in the textbook, you may hear me say, well, you know, this I'm just doing it this first time, blah, 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 blah. Well, as I listened to the lectures, I think I understood it perfectly well, and no real reason to re-record them. The one thing I would say about the lectures is that you should feel free to play them at a higher speed. In fact, I have given you the link to a recording about playing my recordings, which kind of demonstrates how you can speed them up. Typically, when I listen to them somewhere between 1.25 and 1.5. Okay? But apart from that, we're using all the lectures are the same. The tools that we're using are going to be the same. So last year, the tool that I recommended to people that we use was a tool called ActureRP. And that worked very well for me and very well for quite a few other people for both low quality and low fidelity and high fidelity prototyping. And I don't really have a lot to improve on that. I think that was a well chosen tool, and I think the tutorial that I put together for it, I think it's still got good, useful life in it. Okay, there's probably a newer version out right now, but apart from that, everything I think should be fine. So, having said that, let's go down and look through here. One thing that I have changed since a year ago is I've put in place a service desk for keeping in contact with my students when they have a request or a question. People just used to email me. Occasionally they would call me. And the emails would get lost often. Sometimes I'd be able to reply to them, but then the counter reply would get lost and the tracking and all that kind of stuff. So I have built a request center using the JIRA service desk product. And for each course, I have a dedicated portal for the course. And there's a link right here to the portal. Let's see if we can click through on it. And this is the portal. If you go there and you haven't logged in before, you'll get a login screen, in which case you can say, I need to register. And once you register, you actually come out to this page for the portal. What I tried to do is put together in these request types, I tried to think of all the use cases of why people would send me emails where they needed me to do something for them. And then I put one on the end for other issue. Okay? So please, if you can, use this. I've been using it now for about maybe 2 weeks. Students are reacting well. I feel like all of the improvements that I was hoping for are coming along. So I have high expectations. Okay, so we've got that. In terms of contacting me, if you have a request of some time that's got to be some kind that has to be followed up on, use the link for the portal. If you don't have access to the portal, there is a dedicated email address for our course portal, so you can send it in that way. And of course, if you can't make either of those work, you can call me. Now, that's not to say that I don't want to talk to people or see people around. Okay, so if you see me around, I'd love to talk. But I'll probably say, if you ask me a question that has some kind of answer I have to get back to on, please put a request in on the portal, because that's how you know you're going to get what you need. But I love to talk to people. I love to see people, and don't be shy. Okay. We've been having these online office hour lab sessions in all of my courses for several semesters now. They work out particularly well when we have hand-in kind of work to do, and most of that for us, so our first hand-in is in week 4. But it's also a good time to discuss the course, questions that you have and such. Yeah, we have some forums for discussion, and that's great. But having having discussions where we can actually talk with each other and hear each other is a good thing. We had the first of these last night. We had a couple of people there, one person there for sure, had an interesting discussion, and I hope for the rest of you that you will consider dropping by to one of these on Thursday evening from 6:30 to 7:30. If you want to know the time and you want the link and all that kind of stuff, it's in our weekly schedule every week. Okay, the description of the course and the goals and all those things have not changed at all. The prerequisite, the objectives, provided that you listen to the last recording, the same stuff. I thought they were well chosen a year ago, and I think they're well chosen still today. The time expectations are the same. The fact is that especially once we begin doing some hands-on things like low fidelity prototyping and high fidelity prototyping, people who have more experience with this kind of work and these kind of tools are going to be able to do it faster than others. Well, that's just the way of the world. Okay, so there'll be variability in the time commitment, really having to do with how facile you might be with these kinds of tools. But it's certainly doable, and I know that everybody did quite well with the assignments last year and the related time commitments. The textbook still hasn't changed. We're using a pretty recent edition of the textbook by Rogers, Sharp, and Priest called Interaction Design, 4th edition. It's a book I really like. I thought I liked it before I taught with it last year, and when I got done, I liked it even more. So I'm hoping that you're going to like it too. We have a list of readings here. There's a tradition at UW-UM of putting the schedule into the syllabus. And when you propose a course, you definitely have to do that. And so the older syllabus had these readings organized by the week where they were going to be read. Well, I put my schedule into a schedule application, and as a systems analyst, I try to have as few duplicate expressions of facts as I can, so that I only have to maintain them in one place. So whereas I thought of having a list of the articles was a good idea, having the schedule for when they're going to be read in two different places was a bad idea. So I've reorganized the list. I liked the readings, so we're going to use the same ones we did the last time. But I've organized these in alphabetical order by lead author. Okay? And it's really the same stuff that was in the last version of the syllabus. Let's see. Anything else? Software. We're for the most part, we're going to be using kind of ordinary software. Two exceptions to that. When I mean ordinary software, I mean the kind of things that you typically have available on your laptop or your desktop machine. You're going to have to use some kind of high fidelity prototyping tool, and you may You may also want to use a low fidelity prototyping tool. I will not force you to use a particular one, but the one that I use and I demonstrate and I have a lot of success with, and the students in the last class had a lot of success with, is this Axure RP. We're entitled to a free educational license, which is great, and it's a pretty good tool. The other thing is that to the extent that you're handing in papers and such, I want you to hand them in as a PDF. Now, I know that most of my tools these days allow me to print things as a PDF or save them as a PDF. If you don't have that capability, we do have in the SOAS virtual lab, we do have a copy of Adobe Acrobat, which you can use to turn things like word processing documents into PDFs. We have the schedule. So let's look at the schedule. Let's go here. I'm going to go over here. So this is a weekly schedule, and it's organized by week, and the week is the link to the page for that week. We're in week 1 right now. We go all the way through week 17. Now, week 17 is an exam week, so we don't have any real work in that. Week 9 is our spring break week, and we don't have any work in that. Apart from that, we're doing some work every week. So let's go back out and go to week 1, and I'll walk you through the schedule. Typically, because this is an online course, I've got 2 boxes on the schedule in a typical week. On Thursday, I've got the box for our online office hour lab session, which is going to happen every Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30, and there's a link to the GoToMeeting platform where we're going to meet. I typically record these. If people show up and we talk, I record it. And then I post these usually the next day. We had a meeting last night, and I got it up by maybe 11 o'clock this morning, something like that. And then we have the weekly assignments. Our week runs from Monday through the end of the day on Sunday. And the weekly assignments deadline is always 11:55 p.m. on Sunday night. Okay. We've got the topics that we're covering. All right. We've got the required readings, which include, in this case, in week 1, I have the copy of the prior semester syllabus, and that's watermarked to show you that it wasn't the final one for our course. We have the 2 chapters from the text. The text is called Interaction Design 4th Edition, so references to it are shown to ID4E. So in week 1, we were reading chapters 1 and 2. And then we've got anywhere from 1 to 4 scholarly and scientific articles for you to read for the week. And that's what's typically in the readings. The required recordings are typically lectures, the occasional tutorial. Okay. Here I have in week 1 I have I accidentally left the link into the introduction from last semester, so that's why I'm trying to not be too long on this one. Other resources, typically if there are slides that go with the lecture, even though you can see them on the video, you can open up the file here if that's a help to you. So you have access to those. And we've got a couple of forums in which we're doing things. And so our forum postings usually have an assignment under this class participation assignments due, and in parentheses I say forum posts. So this week you're supposed to do a post to introduce yourself, and possibly one of your article discussion forum posts. Now, I'm expecting you, from the readings that we're doing, and we're doing quite a few readings. I mean, you saw that list. I'm expecting you to pick 3. I do want you to read all the articles, but I want you to read 3 particularly closely, and to write a 300 to 400 word post on that. Okay? Do they have to be done in a particular week? No, I'm not going to make you do them in a particular week. Could you do them all in the last week? I guess you could. I don't think that's a good way to learn, but I guess that's possible. Am I expecting people to respond to the post? Yeah, they are. I'll do some responding, and I would expect the rest of you guys to respond. And I'm going to be giving you guys participation credit for both the posts themselves and to the follow-up posts. So that's 3 significant posts, 300 to 400 word posts. One per article, and I want you to post on the article from that week. So again, I don't want you to post, if you're going to post about the article that we were reading in week 5, I want you to post about it in week 5. Don't post about a week 1 article in week 5. Okay, the discussion will have already moved on. Okay, so that's our week 1. Let's look at week 2. A pretty typical week, except that I put the syllabus, the real one, here in week 2. So the thing that we're looking at now, the current semester course syllabus, is here in week 2. That's what we've been going through. And the lecture for this, there's a placeholder for it right here. And of course, once I put this up on YouTube, I'll put the link out on our week 2 weekly schedule, so the placeholder will go away and we'll have a proper link. We're covering chapters 3 and 4. Okay. In the first half of the course, we have a lot of weeks in which we're covering 2 chapters, and that allows us to get through the theory and into the practice sooner. Okay. That means it's a lot of reading for you, and perhaps considerable listening to the lectures and such. Remember, you can play the lectures at a higher speed. That works for me. Okay, but that's going to give us more time to do what we have to do later on. Let's see. Let's go to week 3. It's a typical week. We're covering chapters 5 and 6. Okay. Let's go to week 4. Week 4 is a typical week. We're covering data gathering, chapter 7. That's a pretty long chapter. And we also have a written assignment. We have a paper to write on Oh, we're supposed to do a little bit of research and write on, pick examples of one good and one bad interface, and really talk about them in light of the material that we've covered. And it's just not simply gut feel about what's a bad and a good interface, but given what we've learned so far, what that is. So that's our week 4. Week 5 again is a typical week. We're doing chapters 8 and 9. Week 6, another typical week. We're covering chapter 10. It's a bigger chapter, so we're just doing the one chapter. Week 7. We're doing chapter 11. Okay. Nothing else that week. Week 8. Okay. Now week 8's a big week. It's right before spring break. Chapter-wise, we're covering chapter 12. Okay. But the other thing that we're doing is I want you to put together your proposal for the final project. Okay. Now we have the instructions for the proposal here. The instructions for the final project are in week 16, where that's due. We have a lot of time to talk about this between now and then. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, 2 places where you could do that. One would be to come to these online office hour sessions. We have a lot of really good discussions about people's potential projects there. The other is if you have a question where you need a clarification or you want some feedback on an idea, go to the request portal and, as we say in the service desk business, open a ticket and I'll help you. Okay. All right. So that's due right before the week off. Okay. Then we have the week off on week 9. Week 10, we're going to be doing chapter 13, evaluation. Okay. There's another hand-in assignment here. Now this is a case where we're going to practice high fidelity prototyping. Okay, and I intentionally put this after the break, so you might have a little bit of extra time to do it. Okay, you definitely don't want this to be the week that you try to figure out your prototyping tool. Okay, if you're using what I use and what quite a few other people use, if you're using this Axure RP, I think you probably ought to try to install it probably before we leave for break. Okay, so if you're having trouble, well, you'll have plenty of time to clear that up and then do your high fidelity prototyping practice assignment by this week 10. All right. Week 11, we're covering chapter 14. Okay. No hand-ins due. Week 12, we're covering chapter 15. We do have a hand-in due. So we have a practice assignment for usability testing. So I just want to point out that these things that we practiced, high fidelity prototype and usability testing, these are the same kind of things you're going to be doing for real accounts, not just practicing in your final project. So one of the things I've tried to do is to move these early enough in the semester that you have the chance to do some practicing, get some feedback, and then have the opportunity to get the benefit of all that before you do your work on your final project. Okay, so week 12 usability testing practice assignment is due, and we're covering chapter 15, which is the last of the chapters that we cover in the text. Okay, for the next 2 weeks, 13 and 14, we're past the text, so we're talking about topics that are not so specifically addressed in the text. Okay, so in week 13, it's interaction designed for specific types of users. Okay, and that's what we're doing there. And then in week 14, it's interaction designed for people with disabilities. So that's a specific type of user, but even more narrowly identified, I guess I would say. And then in week 15, we've already covered all of the content for the course. You're going to be wrapping up. Okay. Now, if you're a graduate student in this course, your issue paper is going to be due at the end of week 15. So I would imagine that for the graduate students, you'd be working on a combination of your issue paper and your final project. Okay. And then in week 16, same deal. No further content covered. Okay. Everybody will be working on their final project. Okay. The graduate students will have already handed in their issue papers. And then the final project report, which is the hand-in for the final project, is due at the end of the week. And then again, week 17, that's exam and graduation week. We're not doing anything that week. Okay? So I've changed the schedule around quite a bit from year to year, and I think that we're really getting the benefit of everything that worked well the first time out, and we've changed around the things that were a little too, let's say, cramped, and we've given them more time and separated them from other assignments. So you should have time to work on things. Well, we'll see how it goes. Let's go back and look at the syllabus. The readings I've really already talked about. The practice assignments are what? The good and bad interface, the high fidelity prototype, the usability testing. They all have their own instruction document. They all have their own grading rubric. So read them, and if you've got some questions, well, I'm available to answer them. We have the issue paper, which is for graduate students only. It's a 1,500 to 2,000 word classic graduate school research paper. Okay, it has individual instructions and grading rubric, and of course the final project is really a full life cycle project that you're doing, where we're doing the identification and analysis of users and their requirements, a preliminary design, a low fidelity prototype, a high fidelity prototype, testing based upon the high fidelity prototype, and doing a paper in terms of the project report. We do say presenting the completed project to the class, but we don't do that because we're not a face-to-face. We are an online class. So your presentation is all in your written project report. And again, both the proposal and the project report, they each have individual instruction sheets and grading rubrics as well. Class participation. I am going to be giving you participation points for all these things that you do in the forums, including the introduce yourself and the 3 article discussion posts, and not only for the posts themselves, but for posts that reply to those and follow up to those. And then there'll be points earned for people who can come to and participate in online office hours. Now, for those of you who are not able to do that and you would like to get more participation credit, just post to forums, right? I mean, that's what I'm really looking for is interaction. And this online office hours is a way that we can do it with our voice, but of course the forums will allow us to do it in a less synchronous kind of way. And if that's all you can do, I mean, if that's your medium and that works for you, well, then that works for me too. All right. Because of the fact that these courses that we have, in which we have both graduate students and undergraduates, because of the rules from the university, we need a different grading scale for each, and there has to be at least one assignment for graduate students that undergraduates don't do. And that is, in this case, the issue paper. So the percentages that we have for everything are different, and they're different to accommodate the needs of the university. And the grading scale from the number grade to the letter grade is pretty standard stuff. And then we've got a bunch of stuff at the end of the syllabus. It's all pretty much what we call boilerplate, in that these are things that are more or less the same in all the, the syllabi, but they're all like really important things. People with disabilities, religious observances, military duties, incompletes. This is probably one of the hardest places in the world to qualify for an incomplete grade. Discriminatory conduct. We want this to be a safe learning space. So it's all important stuff. If you haven't read this stuff, read it. If you need help with it, I'm here to help. Okay? Academic misconduct, very important. And of course, complaints and grade appeal procedures. Okay? So, that's it. That's what the course is about. I really like this course. As I mentioned, I taught it a year ago. We had a lot of fun. I'm hoping we're going to have a lot of fun again this semester. I'm looking forward to working with you all. So I'm going to say bye for now. Bye-bye.